Hi, I'm Erick Knowles, President of the Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce, and this is the Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. But before we get started, a word from one of our sponsors.
This is garbage, and you probably think all of it just goes to waste. But in Miami-Dade, we convert most of what you throw away into energy. In our waste-to-energy facility, we can turn about 90% of your everyday garbage into reusable fuel.
Levels look good.
That creates clean electricity for our community. Enough energy to power 35,000 homes. Pretty illuminating, huh? In Miami-Dade, nothing goes to waste.
The light's not, there we go. And welcome back. And as I said, this is the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and it's a member connection. And you guys know I'm excited every time I do this because I just love our guests and, you know, the work that I've done with them and they've done with the chamber and the chamber members. But this guest, I'm sitting here so elated to be here with the one and only, the infamous Miss Linda V. Harris.
Hey, Eric. How are you?
Man, I'm great. You know, just sitting here to be here with you. You know, we go back.
Yes,
you know,
we do.
Yeah, you know, we got history.
We do.
1717 Northeast 17th Avenue.
The 305. You know, it's everybody that's born and raised in the 305. We all kind of know each other.
Right,
We've worked in the community. We've given back to the community, and we continue to do the work.
Exactly.
You know,
and here you are, you know, and I'm just going to be real because, you know, that's what this is about.
Okay.
And for many years, I reached out to you about being on the board, and you were reluctant because you're so busy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're sitting down twiddling your thumbs, and it's the things that you're involved with. And finally, I convinced you. Well, we started a little different. You became the chairwoman of the Women's Business Council. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
And then finally convinced you to be on the board, to be one. I take your leadership even further. But the Henderson Financial Group, Vice President.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
talk about that. Let's talk about Linda first before we can get. Who is Linda V. Harris? And let's talk about.
You know, what a story. I often tell people when I'm speaking and they say, "What's your story?" And we all have one. Born and raised in Miami, got married at 19, don't judge me. I thought I was in love, divorced, second marriage. Meantime, I used that energy, turned that mess into a message, went and got, I think at one point I had 5 professional licenses, and just started doing the work, buying houses. Then I got a securities license and joined forces with my brother-in-law, Robert Henderson. And our motto is we want to make sure you don't outlive your money because, you know, investment, stock market is foreign to a lot of households of color. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about the stock market at the dinner table.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When you say that, you know, at the dinner table, and growing up, we all sat at the dinner table.
We really did.
They don't do that.
At a certain time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that don't happen too much anymore. I mean, it happens, but not like it used to.
I think they eat more in the car than at the dinner table.
You know, crazy lifestyle we live now. But the one thing, to your point, I just remember my aunts and my mother, and they say, save your money. And that was it.
And that was it. And most of the time it was in a bank.
Right.
It wasn't, you know, in an ETF or a mutual fund or a stock exchange. And so we really spread the message. As you know, we've been doing a show called Understanding Money for the last 17 years.
Right.
We were on the radio, now we do Facebook Live, and it's a lot of fun. And again, it's so important, especially young people. I see they're now embracing, they meaning the school system, financial literacy as young as the 8th grade.
Absolutely.
And we need it. I know people don't write checks anymore, but you should know how to write a check.
Absolutely.
You know
I still
what I mean?
write, you know, every now and then you still got to write a check.
You still got to write a check.
Yeah.
So all those things, I am now, every Monday, I'm going down south and over town teaching the Girl Power Girls. We have a financial literacy every hour, Monday, 2 locations. So it's just a passion of mine, and I love it. And women of color being the poorest in America, making less and living longer it's even more important, Eric, to teach women and young girls about money and building wealth.
Okay. And how long have you been a part of Henderson Financial Group?
25 years.
25 years.
25 years. And we make our clients money in the market, and then they buy real estate and they buy land. So now we pivoted. And as you know, I've been out there leading the initiative in building and developing.
Right.
And that was out of necessity. Boy, I tell you, no longer do you ask someone, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because we change. You know, we're 5 different things. You're
Absolutely.
not, you know what I mean?
Not just one dimensional.
No. So that's
and let's
what
talk
we're doing.
about that development. I mean,
Okay.
just yesterday, I mean, this is going to air, you know, down the road, but you worked with Miami-Dade County and our mayor, Daniel Levine Cava, on a housing summit.
Absolutely.
And you talked about the fact, as you said, you're talking about financial literacy, and when it comes to owning property, and a lot of our parents and relatives may leave property to you or to those of us in the community, but then we don't know what to do with it.
Absolutely.
And you know, I sat in part of your seminar in which you were moderating, and there was a lot of amazing information that was provided, in particular right now, because we're in the middle of a housing crisis in terms of affordability.
Absolutely.
And can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I came to you as the president of the chamber, and you were gracious enough to get us a meeting with the mayor and their team. They had already began putting together the housing summit, and again, thanks to your leadership, you were able to get us a breakout session. It was packed.
Absolutely.
It was
standing
absolutely
room. It was standing room only.
Right.
Right.
And as you said, you know, Big Mama may die, leave a lot. Very often, it's still in Big Mama's name, and she's dead. So now we got an issue with the title.
Okay.
So we have a entity for that. There's a tax issue. Nobody's paying the taxes. They don't know what to do with it. They get a flyer in the mail, and they just sell it for below value because, you know what I mean?
They don't know.
They don't know. And now with our housing crisis, as you mentioned, density has changed.
Right.
You can now build 2 units on a single family lot.
Or 3 in
Or
some cases.
3 in
depends.
some cases. So that's how you start generational wealth. You follow
Right.
me? Now you can get the family living there. Very often people say, well, I don't have the money, because the upfront costs, the architectural costs, the soil tests, the appraisals, the construction costs. So we asked the mayor, and she was gracious enough. She has a building block fund now. There's about 15 hedge funds that pledged about $10 to $15 million. I've contacted over half, and all they're saying is, how can we help?
Wow.
How can we help? Very often people own the land free and clear.
Right.
And that can be their equity. They just don't know, Eric.
Right.
And it was so important to just get the word
Well, like
out.
you said, the one thing about the chamber, people really don't understand, how to engage and how to, as I say, always connecting the dots.
Right.
And it's because of the relationships that we have. And to be able to reach out to the mayor and say, we need to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I didn't hesitate to say, I need to put Linda in the front of this, and you jumped in, and you were, as I said, the moderator, and the room was, like I said, standing room only. And people learned, I learned a lot in the little bit of time that I was able to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But, they talked about impact fees being waived.
What? That's huge,
Talk
Eric.
about that a little bit.
Absolutely. See, the anatomy of a building is, number one, you got land. Okay, that's great. You don't owe anything on the land, free and clear. But when you start building, and you go to the gentleman that was on the panel, Nathan, and they got to look at the environmental, and you need a report, $2,500. Okay, so now I need an as-built appraisal. Okay, $7,000. Okay, and the money just adds up. But when they talked about waiving impact fees and permit fees, that takes off $50,000 to $60,000 off the project. We don't know that. You follow me?
Right.
There are entities out there that'll front the money for you, and then you get what we call permanent loan on it, and you it's a mortgage now, but you have a new building.
Right.
It's really, really important. I've had people come up, and you've had people come up to you saying we should do this down south.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, that's the first thing I said.
You
As
sure
a matter of fact,
did.
I spoke to the mayor yesterday.
Okay.
And I said, we really need to do this down south.
Okay.
Because it was at the Marlins ballpark. And a lot of people don't have the ability to come north. And I know there's a lot of us that own property down south.
Absolutely.
And for some reason, you know, property is isn't as expensive down south.
Not yet.
Not yet, but it's creeping up.
Yes,
But the
sir.
same thing up north between Opelika and Miami Gardens. People aren't able or not going to trek down to the Marlins Park. So I mentioned it to the mayor yesterday.
Okay.
That we definitely need to take this show on the road. And she said, her response, yes, we'll do it. It may be a little more condensed because she said it was a lot of work. And it was a great event.
It was a great event.
You had a lot of vendors there,
a lot of
moving
companies
parts there.
Yes.
And so, but she is willing to do it. So we have to stay on her and her
Absolutely.
team to make sure we do that.
Well, you're
Now-
good at that.
Yeah, well, it's what we do.
This is what we do.
So now I want to segue in, before I segue into to that hat that you wear as the chairwoman of the Women's Business Council, I also want to thank you again for your leadership. And with that leadership, you are our incoming chairwoman next year in 2023.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts about that?
I'm just going to hold on to your hand. Just don't let my hand go.
You know,
I'm excited.
I think we're going to be a formidable team.
I think we are too, Eric.
You know, because the one thing about you grab hold of something and you don't let it go.
Yeah, I do. The passion is there. The leadership in you is there. And I think there's nothing we can't do. We once we get an agenda
Right.
and we come up with what we want to do, we
Right.
go for it. It may take time.
Yeah.
You
No,
know
you
how
got
to
2
finesse.
years.
I got 2 years?
You got
Okay,
2 years.
good deal.
So, yeah.
I think I'd like my platform to be the chamber getting a building.
Right, we've talked about that.
Whether it's a plaza, I think it'll be a great combination of, because we have members that are GCs,
All of that.
right?
Yes.
Plumbers, electricians,
Right.
property managers, project managers. What a beautiful thing to put all that together, FUBU, for us, by us.
Right,
Right?
right,
And
right.
I think that'll be amazing. And sometimes that can take about 2 years.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're starting now. Hopefully we'll get some land donated and we'll do our thing.
We got the right person in the room to do that because that's what you've been doing. And you've been doing development yourself, but I know we don't have a lot of time to dig deep into that.
Okay.
But talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm in what we call a P3 public-private partnership with the city of North Miami.
Okay.
They donated the land, the CRA donated funds, and I am building a multifamily building for
Okay.
50 and over. They call it elderly, but I beg to differ. 50, there's nothing elderly about 50.
Well, you know, it's funny.
You know?
I was listening to something the other day, and just a couple of days ago, and they say the average lifespan is 80 years old.
Okay.
So they said really mid-age is 35 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Just think about, 40 is half of 80.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but, obviously we don't think about that.
No,
But
no,
anyway,
no. Especially when you're in shape and you're
Yeah.
living your best life,
Absolutely.
and life is good. We don't look at numbers.
No, we don't.
But that building is for 50 and over, and
Okay.
it's going to be what we call affordable and workforce.
Right.
Which, like you said, is at a crisis right now.
Right.
Next project is about a couple blocks from there, 21 units.
Okay.
And that demographic will be homeless. And it's so interesting, the definition of homeless. If you're sleeping on someone's couch and don't have a lease in your name, you're homeless. If you're living with your mother and you're an adult, you're homeless.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The
Okay.
definition of
Yeah.
homeless is not somebody you see on the street.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's interesting.
You're out of college, you got a degree now, you can't find a place to live, you go bunk with 2 or 3 roommates, you're homeless. So we want to make some affordable housing for that demographic, and we're
Right.
looking forward to that. And North Miami is working with us on that. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
And the one thing great about that
Mm-hmm.
is that you are honing your skills, and then, as you said, you're working with North Miami, the city of North Miami, mayor, BNMA, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
but we got 34 municipalities
Absolutely.
in Miami-Dade County.
Absolutely.
So you can take that show on the road.
Absolutely. We got the plans, we got the crew, we got the know-how, and there's a need, more important.
Right.
We got the need for it, Eric. I believe we talked to a official from Opelika, which is where I grew up,
Right.
you know, which is now Miami Gardens. Boy, back then it was a different city. It is growing now, and they'd like us to come over there and do some things. There's a lot of land in that beautiful city
As
as
a matter
well.
of fact, they're getting ready. Matter of fact, we talked about this.
Absolutely.
As a matter of
Absolutely.
fact, because I sat down with the mayor, with the manager,
Okay.
and he started talking about the things they want to do. I said, hold up, I need to call somebody.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was approached by the city manager of North Miami Beach,
Okay.
and they'd like to do some things.
Mr.
over
Soare.
there. Yes.
Sorry. I said Soare. Pardon me, Duke. Anyway.
So we're looking forward to doing that. But I'm just excited for what we have coming on at the chamber, in addition to our little black dress and pearls.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you segue into that because we got a little bit of time.
Okay.
And I just want to talk about the fact that, as I said, you know, you became a member of the chamber and you became the chairwoman of our Women's Business Council. And you had the insight and the wisdom to create what is now the Little Black Dress and Pearls, one of our major events,
So
and which is going to happen July 30th.
Yes.
And so for the last several years, you've brought some dynamic, outstanding speakers to address the challenges that women face each and every day, whether it's just living, whether it's financial, whether it's literacy, and the different things that we have to deal with. But talk about this year's event.
Absolutely. Can you believe it's been 6 years?
It's, wow.
6 years. I took over the Women's Business Council from Priscilla Dames,
Right.
Who we absolutely love. Back then it was called the Hat and Tea Luncheon.
Correct.
So we wanted to tweak it a little bit, and it's
shouts
now
out
called,
to Priscilla.
Shouts out to Priscilla.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little Black Dress and Pearls. There's power in the pearls. # women, wisdom, and wealth. And to see, Eric, a sea of 300 plus beautiful women, it is the summer event must attend. We have Congresswomen, as you know.
Absolutely.
Every commissioner. Yes, we want men there. We love our men there. Now we're getting a lot more men, which is great.
Right.
And this year we have Marcia L Dyson.
Okay.
She is, and I don't like to connect a woman to her husband, but she is the wife of the infamous Michael Erick Dyson.
Right.
But she's a beast.
Right.
Her champion for women's issues. She is amazing. If you don't have your ticket, you need to get your ticket.
Absolutely.
We're expecting a sellout, and the response has been amazing.
Yeah,
so,
and as I said, with the challenges that women are having
oh my goodness,
right now, nationally, and always been challenges internationally with women and the things that you all have to, they talk about pull up your bootstraps and so on and put on your big boy pants or whatever,
Yes.
big girl pants.
Absolutely.
And now more than ever, this conversation needs to be had. So, I really appreciate and I look forward to your leadership as the chairwoman coming up in
Thank
2023.
you.
But again, the Little Black Dress and Pearls with Ms. Dyson speaking and your leadership is going to be a dynamic day.
It really is. We always have the best vendors. We come out, we mingle for a minute. Our vendors are female business owners. Some of the unique, most valuable items, artwork, artifacts, jewelry, services. We are sipping champagne, if you're into that,
Right.
as we're shopping. This year we got a little surprise.
Okay.
We always introduce the ladies
always
differently.
you always have
got
some
a little
surprises.
something, exactly.
But with the little bit of time we have left, how can someone get in touch with the Henderson Financial Group?
Absolutely. Phone number 305-825-1444. And I'll also give out my mobile number.
Please.
954-559-9816.
Well, this has been the Member Connection at the Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining in. If you want to know more about the Chamber, you can go to www.m-dcc.org, or you can call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, and welcome back. You see me laughing, it's because I'm excited again. Always excited about our guests, members of the chamber, and there's folks that's just out here making it happen. And today I have, and he's gonna laugh at me, I got the other half of hip rock star today.
The other half.
And I'm not going to say the better half, because I think the better half isn't here today.
You're right, 100%. You're right.
I'm not going to get in trouble.
Me neither.
But we got Roy Watkins, who's the vice president. He runs, marketing and all the other things that he does over at Hip Rock Star here in Miami-Dade County. Roy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, it's so good to see you, man. We're always out in the community,
sure.
And you're doing so many things. Hip Rock Star happens to be our marketing team that markets the chamber and manages the annual gala that we do each and every year, in which we have anywhere from 700 to 800 community leaders and just folks showing up as we celebrate the year at the end of the year. As a matter of fact, that's on December 3rd, so put it on your calendar, and it's going to be at the Turnberry Marriott. So put that on your calendar, December 3rd. You got enough time to get ready. It's going to be Miami chic, Miami casual. It's just, no black tie, just chilled like we are today. I don't know if you see, Roy came in without his socks on, so I had to step up and get my game together,
right.
and do the Roy thing. But he's a fashion guru, so I
don't know about that.
Yeah. So anyway, Roy, tell the folks about Roy Watkins. Who is Roy? I know we got started. I mean, I didn't know that, like you said, you were a military brat, as they call them.
Yeah.
And you grew up in the Philippines and around the world. So talk about that a little bit.
So Roy Watkins with Hip Rock Star. I am not the better half of Hip Rock Star. Listen, I want to make sure that's very clear. But man, I think fun fact that I never told you, I'm a triplet.
Oh,
I'm
really?
a triplet. Two boys and a girl.
I did not know.
2 boys and a girl.
2 boys and a girl.
Yeah.
Your brother is tall as you?
I'm 6'7", he's 6'4", she's 5'11".
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it was great. I mean, I think the military is really what's made me who I am. I mean, it's created this core characteristic of who I am. Just try to be disciplined, try to be obedient to the process, understanding time frames, understand you got to get up and do this at a certain time. My dad was he was cookie cutter, very regimented about what he did, but he was always fair, right? And so I think that's part of me, is where I wanted to always and continue to always be fair, and always I said I don't want to be right, but I want to do the right thing, And so I think that's where the military, came in. I mean, I had a chance to live in the Philippines, Puerto Rico, picked up a couple of languages, habla español, un poquito, enough to get around. But the reality is, it allowed me to see the world,
Giving you a diverse perspective on life.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key word, perspective, right? The perspective is just, I see things differently. And I think that's what allows even Hip Rock Star to thrive, is that we see things differently. We don't always there's a cookie cutter way of doing things, thinking outside of the box. And so, but that military, it allowed me to go in and out of different different locations and deal with different people, whether from different parts of the world. But also try to, carve my way out, within that. If I'm in the Philippines, you try to, as in Rome.
You got to figure
it out. You figure it out. If you're in Puerto Rico, you figure it out, and then we've lived in the Midwest. But it gave me this flexibility, that I think that we all need, whether it's in business and to thrive in business. There's no one way to do certain things, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's giving me this flexibility to go, okay, we could do this, but maybe we can do this differently.
And you get other people's perspective.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's not just your way or the highway. It is, let's be a team and let's figure it out together.
Yes.
Because Go ahead.
No, and here's the thing. That also allows me to work with my wife.
Right.
Because not everybody can do that, right?
Well, she's a general herself.
She is. And here's the thing. There's times I had to learn how to be Robin.
Right.
And go, okay, you Batman and I'll be Robin and I'll push it from behind.
Right.
And my wife is the type that you can't stop her or get in
Jessica
her way.
Watkins, for
Right.
those who
You can't
who
get in
may
her
not
way,
know.
right? So I had to learn, go, okay, now listen, you are a general, I'm also a general. But sometimes as a leader and being wise, you sit back and go, okay, you thrive in these areas and I thrive in these areas.
Absolutely.
And let me get out of your way. And that's what's allowed it to be, to work.
Right.
Because not everybody can work with their wife or their spouse, right?
No. And it's not necessarily not just your wife or your spouse.
Right.
It's people who have a vision, and then we all have a vision. But to your point, to be able to get out of the way and let that person do what they do.
Right, 100%. And I think that's what allows us to do what we're doing, right?
Right. And while doing what you're doing, you guys have been growing like mad. I know we obviously we're just talking about COVID. I a few weeks ago had it, and it's here. Mm-hmm. It's not going away. But you all were in the trenches.
Yes.
And because there was a lot of information that had to get out.
Yes.
And you all were right there at the forefront of that messaging.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So, and how it really kind of happened, we approached a couple newspapers and was like, hey, how about we come in and partner with you guys and so we can create some type of messaging. Really, Hip Rock Stars, we always say we're the gateway to black culture, right? Needless to say, the newspapers were like, oh, no. So we were like, you know what? We can do it ourselves.
Right.
And so we started talking about, the pandemic. We started talking about COVID. How does it affect, people of color?
Right.
And we were putting messages out every week, whether it's a newsletter or what we get on our show, The Culture, and we talk about, hey, here's the things that are affecting the black community.
Right.
Here's how you get your PPP. Here's where you go get it. Here's who you call. Here's all the resources. Here's all the tools.
Right.
And so we saw ourselves being that maybe the advocate of just communicating that messaging.
Absolutely. To
people of color. And here's the thing, and not only just people of color, we were specific about it, but if anybody else wants to listen to it.
Absolutely.
Right? But it allowed us to we saw our business just take off during that time. And what I find out a lot of times now is when I get a call, someone go, hey, Roy, we're great at what we do, but we need the messaging.
Right.
And so I think, it's maybe it's part of our responsibility. I don't know. I think what we really do is we really embrace the community. So everything that we do is always based around the community. I don't care if it's an event. I don't care if it's messaging. Whatever it is, it's always community based.
Well, it shows in, I don't want to say the contracts, but the relationships that you've built. And it's about relationships. We could talk about contracts, but again, it's about the relationships.
For sure.
Because if you didn't have the relationship, that contract wouldn't even come about.
You're right.
People don't really think about it that way.
100%.
People work with people they like.
For sure.
And
for sure.
And you have carved out that. I know you've been doing stuff with the NFL.
Yep.
You've received accolades. I mean, oh gosh, I don't believe I'm forgetting the magazine that
Inc. Yes.
Inc. magazine.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Amazing, but I'm gonna say this: if I always say if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you don't get a haircut, right?
Right.
But it's a testament, right? First of all, it's humbling, right? We're grateful. But when Inc. magazine says, "Hey, we see you guys as one of the fastest growing companies in America,"
wow.
When you've heard this story before. When we first got to Miami, our first client was a Trayvon Martin Foundation,
right?
And we got a little bit of money, but we volunteered, right? We understood the
But
assignment.
that's another thing. You say you give back a lot, so I know that as well.
Yeah, no, it's not that I got to, but we get to.
You're
Right?
It's important.
It's important, and so, but to go from 8 years ago to volunteering with the Trayvon Martin Foundation to 8 years. Now we're in Inc. magazine. We just won a couple Telly awards for the work we're doing. But it still starts with the community, right?
Right.
And I remember a couple years ago telling my wife, I said, "Listen, I'm not doing any more shadow boxing. It's time to reach out and touch folks."
Right.
And it is relational. It's no different than you and I talk. Hey, Eric, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. How's the family? So when I say hi, I mean hi.
Exactly.
When I say bye, I mean bye.
Right.
And I think that's really what it is. And we always tell members, and especially, hey, you gotta connect with folks. You gotta reach out. Call Eric, he's a great resource. Call Matthew, he's a great resource.
Right.
Call these folks. These are resources, and we really have benefited from those relationships.
Absolutely. And we talk about that. Again, you and Jessica and it's funny. It's a funny story to me. Because you and I were talking on the phone, and you and Jessica said, we really want to champion South Dade.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
South Dade a lot of times is the forgotten stepchild. I mean, it's the reality.
It is.
Miami-Dade County, pretty much from downtown up north. That's focused on and south to Dade land. But once you get past that, it's almost like it's no man's land.
For sure.
But that's not the truth. That's not the reality.
100%.
Because when you think about Homestead and Florida City and Perrine and Goulds and so on and so forth, they're Richmond Heights.
100%.
I can't leave.
You better not leave out Richmond. You better not.
I can't leave out Richmond Heights.
Right.
But you all had the foresight to say, we want to be the champions for Dade South.
Yes.
And we want to start a committee that focuses on the businesses in South Dade.
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit.
Well, we talked about it. Me and my wife have been talking about this for years. I mean, the reality is we always go, gosh, there's some things that are missing south.
Right.
South, South Miami, like we really want to do X, Y, and Z. Why do we always got to drive north to do X, Y, and Z?
Right.
I used to always say that. And so finally we were like, look, my wife came to me and was like, hey, what do you think about, creating, a part of the chamber here and being part of those, using those resources and the tools and, leverage what Erick is doing, but create this great partnership. And because there's a missing component. And I was like, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, but I also believe that it's part of our responsibility. I think we have a responsibility to the community. I mean, we wrote a book, we did a documentary about Richmond Heights, and really to preserve the history of all that area, not only just Richmond Heights, but South Miami and Florida, right?
Right.
And so I think it's an addition to what we're already trying to do, but. I think the testament of all is when you have a launch and you see all these companies and people coming out of nowhere, right? And when the reality was the day before, we maybe had 4 companies confirmed.
Right. Wow.
And then you walk in and there's like 36.
The room is full. Standing room only.
Standing room only. But that was back to your point. It's a testament of our relationships.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to say, and I have to tell this story. But the other thing of having Commissioner Keone McGee there with us as well when we kicked it off, and what he did.
Yes.
The commissioner paid for a number of memberships to the chamber, and the chamber provides technical assistance, and we do a number of workshops. But to have him step up and believe in what we're doing is a testament to the chamber, but also a testament to the work that you're doing.
Yes.
And I had to say this. So when Jessica reached out to me and said, you and Roy need to talk. So Roy and I are talking. And he said, yeah, we want to do this. And I'm like, Roy, well, I don't know if I have a budget. And we got to figure out how we're going to do the money, what we're going to do. And you said, okay, well, all right. And then Jessica calls me, what money are you talking about? This is what we want to do. Right. I'm like, oh, wow. You guys, and you've given to the chamber. We do business, but there's so much that you've also given back to the chamber.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say publicly, we truly appreciate. But that is the testament to who you all are.
Yeah.
But again, when you do things with an open hand, it's not a closed fist. Like I say, you
100%.
Can't get anything. Like you're holding on. But when 100%. You give out and give, so much comes back.
You could listen. First of all, Keone McGee. I mean, what a blessing.
Right.
Because we didn't even see that coming.
No,
I think we all were kind of blindsided.
Absolutely.
By the blessing, right? I think what he does see, though, is he sees not only a couple, but he sees a business, He also sees, my wife as well, but we're always on the phone with him. Hey, what about this? What about that? We do so many things in the community, but we always include him.
Right.
No matter what. And we're letting them know, hey, we're team, McGee.
Right.
And we want to see you win. We want to see the community win. We're going to continue to thrive. And so that was such a blessing. But the reality is that is a result of always planting seeds. I mean, I believe in planting seeds. It's about serving, being a servant, right, of the community. And he just, I don't know, maybe just we really believe in giving, right?
Right. It's shown and it's demonstrated each and every day. What's on the horizon?
Woo.
I know you all in the kitchen cooking, putting some recipes, putting the mix together.
Right.
So what's out there?
So without going into too much detail, we're in the middle of 3 films.
Okay.
In the middle of 3 films. One's a docuseries.
Okay.
And we got a great partner. We got a great distribution deal, whether it's with Amazon Prime and IMDb and Crackle. We got a great deal out of it, and it's a testament of continue to plug at it, right, and being part of the Black-owned media.
Right.
And then we're going to look into next year and what's going to happen from that. But I believe network. I really believe we are a network. When I look at just the grand scheme of how we got the business, it was based off a relationship that I had with somebody previously and hired her at the Weather Channel when I was at the Weather Channel.
Okay.
And now she's Byron Allen's right hand.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to
we know.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I was able to pick up the phone, talk to her, get in contact with Byron, sit in one of his upfronts, and he was like, here's the things I encourage you to do. Make a call. One thing led to another. But I will say this too.
Relationships.
It's relationships. But I will say this as well, especially to the members. We gotta be prepared. We was ready. We was cooking, right? And when you're cooking,
when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
you don't have to get ready.
Right.
And so when we met with some of the partners, they was like, y'all doing what? We really love what you got. And so it went from one conversation to the next conversation to me going to the mailbox and picking up a huge check. And now I'll just say this to you. There was a press release that was out with a company called Apex, right? Mm-hmm. And they talked about giving money back to diverse companies. It was $25 million amongst 10 companies. I was one of the 10.
Wow.
We was ready.
Right.
And I think it's no different. We walk right into it, right? And you got to walk in your authority, but walk into what your purpose is. And I think that's really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're working on some films right now. And
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to get in touch with Hip Rockstar, how can they do that?
You can always Hip Rockstar advertising.com is a way. Hip Rockstar on all the social feeds. And you can always reach out to me, rm@hiprockstar.com. That's an easy way to get a hold of us, but we're everywhere.
Right.
And there's no other Hip Rockstar out there that I know of. Right?
Okay. And
so, but yeah, on all the social feeds, on IG and Facebook and on Twitter and also on YouTube, Hip Rockstar.
Before we close it out. Now, I know you were involved, like you said, you've been involved with the National Football League, but you were very involved with Formula One.
100%, that which was a great event, but we was ready, right?
Right.
And so, but we were able to do a community event, especially with you being part of it as well,
right.
And with a great partner with the Miami Dolphins and Jason Jenkins. But it was nice. I mean, we had Lewis Hamilton come and speak to the folks. But then I think being part of the media as well, and being able to go out and you get in front of the Michael Jordans and the David Beckhams and the Tom Bradys and the Pharrells. I was in that company, but I took that as an opportunity, right?
Right.
But I also, I network when I get out there and say, hey, here's who we are. Here's some things that we're doing. Hey, we're grateful that you're here. I don't think I'm never starstruck.
Right.
Right.
You're a star yourself, brother.
Right. And so, but to me, it's a beginning of a relationship. I'm at the table. And if I'm not going to be invited to the table, I bring my own legs and build my own table.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really what it's all about.
Well, this has been amazing. We could continue this conversation for another half hour, but this has been the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. If you want to know more about the Chamber, go to www.m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. See you next time. Hi, and welcome back to the Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce's Member Connection. And as always, it's another exciting morning as I welcome Faith Sincere. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excited having you here. You know, you're here, but we're going to talk about you a little bit.
Sure.
And who is Faith Sincere?
Well, Faith Sincere is a sister, a daughter, a mother, a girlfriend, and a real estate broker.
Okay.
I was born and raised here in Miami. My family's from Haiti originally. So me and my sisters are first generation here in the United States.
Okay.
So I got into the real estate industry back in 2014 because I wanted to become a real estate investor and just wanted to learn everything I could about real estate. So getting my real estate license just seemed like the reasonable first step for me.
Okay.
So I attended FIU, Florida International University here in Miami, and I studied real estate. And instead of graduating from FIU, I ended up getting my real estate broker's license, which allowed me to go into real estate full-time and launch my first business, which was a real estate brokerage.
Okay. And here we are, as you said, that was then. Here we are in 2022.
Yeah.
And Miami is probably the hottest real estate market in the United States
so
right
crazy.
now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And, you know, actually, a couple weeks ago, Mayor Cava actually had a summit on housing and the challenges that we're having here in Miami, in particular with affordable housing. Because, I mean, there's a plethora of homes. I mean, you can buy homes in multi-million dollars, but the mean price of housing is right around $350,000, $400,000
Yeah.
now.
It actually has gone up. The median price about 3 or 4 years ago was about $300,000, and now we're about $350,000.
That is crazy. You know, and I was at the summit that the mayor had, and one of the things that I remember when I bought my first house, and sounds crazy now, my first house when I was in my 20s was $35,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, times have changed.
Times have changed.
Where was this,
This
if you don't mind me
was,
asking?
and you're going to be surprised of where this was. This was in the Design District.
Really?
Really, on one of those old Spanish two-story stucco houses.
Well, I can
Beautiful
believe
home.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back then, Buena Vista.
Yeah.
You know, we were, you know, looking for Buena Vista to be what it is today.
Yeah.
And obviously, that was in the 80s. And that particular house, I believe, it was sold several years ago, but I believe it just was on the market again for like $1.4 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were talking earlier before we came on, and you grew up in the Grove.
Yeah. So
Let's talk about that.
First of all, I love Coconut Grove. I actually would prefer to live there now. My office is actually in Coconut Grove, so it's
Okay.
kind of full circle for me to be
Okay.
back there. But my parents bought our house that we grew up in, Coconut Grove, like $120,000 about 30 years ago. And then back in 2015, sold it for $500,000 because prices has gone up. And it's not even the type of Coconut Grove that we see now.
Right.
It was just up and coming. So now it's gentrified, if I'm honest. And they're building so many townhouses. My house got split into 2 townhouses.
Right.
So it's not even there any longer. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, I remember, I've been with the Chamber now 8 years, and I remember I hadn't been in the Grove in a while, and about 6 years ago, I made a turn off of McDonald and turned down Day Avenue and saw those townhouses that you're talking about.
Yeah,
And
they're all over.
all over the place. And the thing about it, actually, when I worked in the Grove, as we talked earlier, I worked for an organization called the Coconut Grove Local Development Corporation. We were building affordable housing back then. And the houses that I mentioned to you in the Coral Gables section of Coconut Grove along US 1, we built those houses for $60,000 back then. But now, as I said, turning down Day Avenue 6 years ago, and as you said, your house, which was on a lot,
On Elizabeth.
is now two townhouses. And 6 years ago, those townhouses I looked in was $850,000.
Oh, there are more now.
Oh, they're like $1.4 million
Yeah.
now. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the market has actually increased drastically within the last couple years. But Miami has become a huge tech bubble. Like a lot of tech companies are moving down to Miami, and people are, market value is based off of market demand.
Right.
So if everybody wants to live in Miami and everybody is moving down here, it's raising the property value for all of these homes. So yeah, they've been going up.
And obviously, a lot of that was spurred by the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic.
Because what was happening was a lot of New Yorkers or Northerners, not just New Yorkers, living in their apartments,
Yeah.
and which were worth millions of dollars, and they basically could work from home. They could
Right.
work virtually.
Right.
And
So why
a
not
lot of-
work where the beach is?
Exactly. And a lot of
Sunny
folks,
South Florida.
a lot of folks came down to get away from being basically locked up, because also here in the middle of December, January, February, we can be outside. You couldn't
Right.
do that in New
Right.
York. And so you had this, I guess they were saying like
an
1,000
influx.
people.
Still, like I think it's 1,500 now a day moving down to South Florida.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So they talk about a bubble
Mm-hmm.
that's going to happen. What do you see?
About the market crashing. Everybody. So we have a lot of clients now that originally were just so eager to buy because interest rates were really, really good, and they have gone up.
Right.
And as interest rates go up, the market slows down a little bit. So the market is starting to cool off a little bit. We can see that property has been remaining on the market a little bit longer than they used to, but it's still going by pretty fast. So I don't believe there's going to be a crash. I think it's going to stabilize, but looking at the trend, I do see it cooling down a lot.
And where are interest rates right now?
They're in the fives.
In the fives.
Compared to where it dropped as low as 2.9%, which was
Now remember that house I told you
amazing.
that I bought in the Grove?
Yeah.
Excuse me, not in the Grove, but in Buena Vista?
Yeah.
For $35,000?
Yeah.
What do you think the interest rate was then?
Oh, I don't know.
It was 11%.
And people don't understand that. They're scared to buy.
Yeah.
But I mean, interest rates fluctuate. It's always going to fluctuate. The time to buy is whenever you are able to, at the end of the day,
Right.
in my opinion.
So what do you, again, as I said, I was at the summit that the mayor had about housing.
Yeah.
What are your suggestions for a young person that's coming out of college, starting a family, and looking to buy a home? I mean, Dade County is very big.
Yes, Dade County is big. It also is expensive. You can see the difference in prices in Broward County versus Dade County. Like, it's a big difference in the type of space that you have and the home that you're buying. But I mean, Miami is kind of where everybody wants to be. I mean,
Right.
it's a beautiful city. And for a young person that's starting a family, there's a lot of programs that are out there that makes it a little bit more affordable for them to buy something.
Okay.
Like down payment assistance, grants that are available to first-time homeowners, and we have the FHA program that the down payment is only 3.5%, and they're able to even qualify for a loan with like a 590 credit score.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options out there for them.
And I know, speaking about that, I know that, again, when I was working in the Grove and we were building affordable housing, you can actually get 3 mortgages through surtax. But these are these programs that you're talking about.
Right. There are options. I'm not a mortgage broker,
Right.
and I'm not a licensed loan originator, so I can't go into too much detail into that. They
Right.
would have to work or speak to a licensed professional.
Right.
But yeah, there are a lot of different
No,
programs.
there are programs, and through the chamber, I know I work with MDC, which is the Miami, and I'm forgetting it as I say it. But anyway, MDC has a housing program for first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
And they, again, through surtax, there are programs in which you can get anywhere from a second to a third mortgage, and if you stay in that home for 10 years, and that may have changed, so I don't want to speak that is the actual happening now, but if you stay in that home for about 10 years, that loan is forgiven. Some of those second and third mortgages are forgiven.
And there are a lot of programs that are out there like that. Whoever they're working with, or whoever the person is working with for their loan, they can kind of walk them through the different type of grants and programs that are available. But there are a lot that makes it possible. If you're able to afford rent and pay rent every month, you can pay a mortgage every month.
And speaking about rent,
Yeah.
some rents higher than paying a mortgage.
Yes. See, that's something that I haven't seen start to stabilize yet, is the rental market in Miami.
Right.
It's getting more and more expensive. I had a client call me the other day where his 2-bedroom, which is now $45,000, just went up $3,000 to $7,500 for his renewal. And now he's looking for something else.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
No, wait.
Not everybody can afford that.
Rent,
That's monthly.
The rent went from $3,500 to
$4,500 to $7,500 a month.
Wow.
And that's in Edgewater.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I felt bad because this is rent that people are paying. They don't own this
No,
property.
it's nothing you're getting back.
Right.
And speaking of that, you talk about Edgewater, and that's pretty much between, 36th Street and 2017.
Yeah.
And that boom is just crazy.
Right. There's a lot of up and coming areas in Miami, and I've seen the progression of Edgewater. So the area that I'm talking about specifically are the Pariso buildings. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's a nice little quiet, calm neighborhood, and these are some brand new buildings that had just went up. But it's a beautiful area, and there's a lot of beautiful areas in Miami. So,
Right.
yeah.
And same thing happening on Brickell.
Same thing happening in Brickell, same thing happening downtown and Midtown and Wynwood.
Right.
Like these are the hot areas, I would call it, for Miami.
And what about the beach?
And the beach as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, my office is downtown, and on a Saturday or Sunday, pretty much downtown was dead. And now you see traffic, you see foot traffic. I mean, it's very lively.
Yeah, Miami is a very lively city, which I love about it also. I like the colors and the people outside and the chatter and the movement. Like, I'm a city girl, so I'm here for the city life.
Right. So what do you see the future looks like? I was talking to a developer a couple weeks ago, and they say it's not going to slow down anytime soon.
Oh, no, it's not slowing down. There's a lot of buildings that are still being created, new development projects. So Miami is just going to become even more busy, more condos and high rises and more people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what do you say for someone who's interested, a young person or older person, who may be interested in getting in real estate? Is it a good time now to get in, or is
into real
or is
estate
it
and purchasing?
saturated? Because I know there are a lot of realtors out there.
Oh, as in a career.
In the market, folks who are actually selling homes, selling businesses, so on and so forth, commercial properties. What do you say for someone who wants to get into the market?
Well, I would never tell anybody not to. Real estate is one of those industries where there's not a cap on the amount of money that you're able to make. And you don't have to go to school for 4 years to get a degree in real estate. You can get your license and begin selling real estate. So I would never tell anybody not to. It's one of those industries also where you're just it's fully commission based. So you can't expect a check every single week or every 2 weeks. You only eat what you kill in this industry. And
That's being an entrepreneur.
a lot of people look towards Instagram and all of these shows that are coming out on Netflix about how beautiful real estate is, but they don't really see the grind behind it.
Well, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So what is that grind?
The thing is that you have to be motivated in this industry. Like, the business isn't just going to come to you. You might have some friends that might need a property or a rental, or family that may need help, but you actually have to go out there and network and meet people and prospect, because if you're not making these calls, if you don't have any leads, you have no business.
Okay.
So it's a great industry to be in, don't get me wrong. It's not easy, but it's not hard. It's simple. You just kind of follow the blueprint.
Okay. And what made you become, you started your own business.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So
Being an entrepreneur, because, we talk about being a realtor. Basically,
being a realtor is
an
having your own business.
Business.
Except when you have your real estate license, you have to hang it under a brokerage.
Okay.
So they take a percentage of your commission for every deal, but they house you. They have the office, they have the resources, they have the training. So this is what a broker is here for. For me, starting my own brokerage, the only way that it wasn't even a thought of mine. It's something that my partner and I got together after the brokerage that we were working at shut down. So we had to hang our license somewhere else. In the midst of me trying to figure out where I wanted to put my license and what brokerage I wanted to go to and what would be the best fit for me and me for them, we came up with the idea of starting our own company. So
Okay.
it's women ran, it's diverse. We're focused heavily on investments as well, on helping our agents to purchase investment properties and to educate our clients on generational wealth. It's one of the largest investments a person can make is owning a home. It's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars when you're
Right.
purchasing a property. So letting them know that they have options to pull equity from their property to purchase another property and, you know, just becoming investors themselves. So,
You know, one thing, I go back to the summit that the mayor had, and the one thing our incoming chairwoman, Linda Harris, who's also the chairwoman of our Women's Business Council, she had a breakout session in reference, you talk about generational property and the fact, and you talk about the Grove.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, even your family's home ended up being split into two
Two
properties,
townhomes, yeah.
two townhomes. But a lot of folks, they don't understand that, the
Yeah.
value of that property. What could you tell someone who
Well-
may have, you know, grandma left the property or in that respect?
Well, first, let me clarify something. Yes, my parents bought our house in the Grove for $120 and sold it for $500,000, but it wasn't the house that the developer that purchased the house wanted. He wanted the land, the
Right.
land value.
Exactly.
The house that we had wasn't worth
Right, it
500
wasn't
grand.
about- it wasn't that-
they
it was-
tore it down.
Exactly.
So these properties, a lot of, and of course, you know what happens. People die, and you know they have their children or their grandchildren, and they get left a property. But sometimes it can be a bigger headache than it's worth for some people, and that's when they look to sell it. But a lot of people don't understand that this is an asset. This is something that you can leave for generations to come. And if it's especially a property that's completely paid off and that your grandma owned outright, that's $500,000 if you cash it out that you have. Or that you're leaving for your children.
Right.
So these are big, big assets, and people don't understand that.
And that's what we hear. We talk about gentrification. We hear, you know, communities being lost when it comes to, well, as we say, black, quote unquote, black communities. And,
Yeah.
and the Black Grove, back in the day, we called it the hole in the donut because the Black Grove was kind of central, and you had the other part of the Grove that surrounded it, the $1 million properties. But now the Black Grove is $1 million properties.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little, it's different. And what's hard about it is that the families that were there after selling these houses, and especially with the market the way it is now, it's like, where are they going?
Right.
It's
Where
like,
do you go?
what can you afford?
Right.
But yeah.
Well, you know, this has been an interesting conversation that we could continue for another hour.
Yeah.
If someone wants to get in touch with you,
Well, they can follow me on Instagram at faith.sincere or my brokerage page at Anchor Real Estate. They can email me at faith@anchorrealestate.com or find my LinkedIn, Faith Sincere.
okay. Well, and if you want to know more about the Chamber, you can go to www.m-dcc.org, or you can call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. And if you want to hear about what's happening, go to our Chamber page.